everybody, Sticks here with the Token Minorities, bringing you another deck on Pokemon TCGO, and today I'm bringing you a bit of a weird one centered around Snorlax from Fates Collide. And before I get into the deck, just a reminder that if you like this video or found it helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, and maybe subscribe. It helps us out a lot and lets us do a lot more for you guys. But anyway, like I said, this deck is centered around Snorlax from Fates Collide with Toss and Turn and Swallow. I'm pretty much never going to be using Swallow because it's an absolutely horrible attack. For 4 energy, it only does 50, and I mean, it'd be one thing if it did 50 and had an insane ability like it, or insane effect like it did 50 to every single one of your opponent's Pokemon, and even then that still wouldn't be that great because it's 4 energy, but it's only feel from this Pokemon the same amount of damage you did to your opponent's active Pokemon. So for 4 energy, you do 50 and heal 50, which is horrible. The attack that this deck is going to try to focus on is Toss and Turn. 30 base power for 3 energy, which is horrible again. But this attack can be used if this Pokemon is asleep, and if it is, this attack does 90 more damage. So for 3 energy, you can do 120 damage, which is okay. But, I mean, with Snorlax's really high bulk and the fact that you can slap a Fighting Fury Belt on it, all of a sudden you have a Snorlax that's 180 HP and hitting for 130 damage for 3 energy, and also your opponent still has to flip a coin between turns to try to wake up. So, I mean, that's basically what this deck is centered around, and it's actually kind of cool. I've tried it a couple times and it's worked more often than not, so I'm hoping I can get something similar to that in this live. As for the Pokemon, we're running 3 Shaman because, I mean, Shaman is Shaman. I say that every single time, but you use it for setup, and you use it to draw cards. There's no two ways about it. Shaman is just great in this type of deck. Running a absolute max number of Snorlax with 4. I mean, like I said, I just told you everything about Snorlax, so we're running 4 of those. Running a kind of thinner line of Pokemon, we're only running 13. So, I mean, it's kind of streamlined in order to try to get our strategy up and going as fast as possible. And then we were running a 3-2 line of Drowsy and Hypno. Running 3 Drowsy and 2 Hypno because you want to have a Drowsy available to evolve into Hypno as soon as possible. So if one gets knocked out, it's not the end of the world because you will, more often than not, want to have another one on the bench. And then we were running the Hypno from Breakpoint, that's right. With the Good Night Babies, once during your turn, you may leave both active Pokemon asleep. That has excellent synergy with Snorlax's Toss and Turn because all of a sudden you're hitting for 120 damage with Hypno, and your opponent has a chance to stay asleep during your next turn. And even if Snorlax wakes up, you can still use Good Night Babies again with Hypno to be able to put it back to sleep. And because we're using a Hypno in the deck, and we're dealing with sleep and whatnot, and also the fact that I don't have really any other energy type that I need to have in this deck, I decided to go with Dark basic energy and throw in a Darkrai because, I mean, Dark Head is always just a nice attack to have just in case. I mean, it's a lot better than Snorlax's Toss and Turn, but you know what? This deck is centered around Snorlax, and that's going to be the focus. But I decided that if we're dealing with a deck where you're putting the opponent's Pokemon to sleep, you might as well throw a Darkrai in there just because. On to the items. We are running it's kind of standard-ish. Well, I mean, you know what? There's nothing standard about this deck, so I'm not even going to try to say that anything I'm running is standard. I'm running, no, that's a level ball. I'm running 1 Escape Rope just because, I mean, Snorlax has a whopping 4 retreat cost, and Hypno has 2, Darkrai has 2, Shaman has 1, so I mean, even Drowsy has 2. Wow, I thought Drowsy only had 1, but I guess Drowsy is fat. So, we're running an Escape Rope to get something out of the active spot that we don't want there, and also to act as a pseudo Lysander, or not really a Lysander, but more of a disruption. Running 1 Level Ball just to get a Drowsy and a Hypno out. 4 Max Elixir because Snorlax and Darkrai both get powered up by it, and this way you can actually have a Snorlax powered up in 1 turn if you get the right amount of cards and you have like a Snorlax active or something Max Elixir on the bench, put a DCE on it, and then switch out, or some combination of that. You can get a Snorlax hitting in turn, well, not turn 1, turn 2, because you have to evolve into Hypno. Running 1 Super Rod to get some stuff back from the discard pile. 1 Switch because, again, all of our Pokemon are really fat, and you don't want to have to manually retreat, so Switch is there to get them out of the active spot. 4 Trainer's Mail, I mean, like I've said in all my recent videos, Trainer's Mail really helps with the consistencies of the deck, so I'm running 4 of these in almost all of my decks to, I mean, help it move along. 4 Ultra Ball to get everything out. 4 VS Seeker, because, I mean, supporters are amazing. You want to use a lot of supporters, so that is great to have in this type of deck. I could definitely see running in AZ in the supporter line, but you know what? I'm going to go ahead and... Do I want to change that? Nope, I'm going to stick with my supporter line just because, I mean, I somewhat like it and it's been serving me well so far. I'm using one Bridget because all of the Pokemon that this deck is really centered around are, I mean, basic non-EX Pokemon like with Snorlax and Drowsy. So Bridget is a great turn 1 card for just getting a bunch of those guys out and getting them ready to do stuff next turn. And especially with Shaman, it's not the end of the world if you have to use Bridget as your supporter for the turn, so I mean it's pretty good in this type of deck. Running 2 Lysander, normally I just run 1, but I had room in this deck to run 2, and I mean Lysander is just phenomenal to use in pretty much any deck, and also you can use it to like Lysander and Shaman or something and knock it out with Toss and Turn when you put it to sleep, so Lysander is great. 3/3 of N and Sycamore, I mean because... Again, that's the line I have started using, haven't come up with anything better yet, so this is just what I'm sticking with. I'm not saying that you should use this line, I'm just saying it's been working for me, and I encourage you to try to find a line of those supporters that works for you. Now, this stadium is actually kind of peculiar, and you need to play relatively smart with it in this type of deck, and that is All Night Party. Once during each player's turn, if that player's active Pokemon is asleep, he or she may remove that special condition and heal 30 damage from that Pokemon. Now, our deck centers around Snorlax being asleep. So, I mean, the only situations that I have All Night Party in here for are if you have a Darkrai and need to attack with it, or you have a Snorlax that is asleep and a Hypno on the bench and Snorlax got damaged the previous turn. You can play down an All Night Party, heal some damage from Snorlax and wake it up in the process, and then Hypno will be able to put it right back to sleep. I mean, you have to be very, very careful with the card because it allows your opponent's Pokemon to wake up as well, and I mean, our strategy is centered around Snorlax being asleep, so you really just want to be very stingy with playing that, but I figured that it couldn't hurt to run in the deck, especially if I'm throwing Darkrai in there. It's always a nice card to have, and also gives Snorlax a little bit more longevity if you come across a situation where you want to heal a couple damage off Snorlax to prevent a KO next turn. And I mean, you can just play it down, wake up Snorlax, heal damage, and then put it right back to sleep with Hypno. I'm running the absolute max number of Fighting Fury Belt because, I mean, I have all 5 of my attackers can function with Fighting Fury Belt, their basic Pokemon, so they can get some more HP and hit for a little bit more damage. I'm running 2 Float Stone because, like I said before, all of my Pokemon are really, really fat, so I might as well have like a Float Stone on a Drowsy or a Hypno or something like that. That way, if they get Lysandered active, I can just free treat back into my attacker. As for the energy, I'm running just a very basic 4 DCE because, I mean, Darkrai and Snorlax both function very well off DCE, and then 6 Dark Energy for Max Elixir, and then for Darkrai's Dark Head if you need it. But anyway, I am done rambling. Let's just go ahead and try to see this deck in action. Alrighty, we have found one against Kryalva? I don't know. But anyway, it's with a Water Electric deck, so this could be interesting. I mean, it might be a Mega Manectric Jolteon Glaceon deck, which would be really awful. We do go for the coin flip. We do lose. That is very, very unfortunate because this deck loves to attack first, in fact, or loves to go first, because that way you can evolve and actually get things going. I start with a Snorlax, which is, I mean, okay, I guess, but what I'm going to do is probably... Okay, so we do see... Okay, it's a Mega Manectric deck. So this will be kind of an interesting and somewhat uphill battle, especially if my opponent can just start getting Mega Manectric going immediately. And the problem is, Snorlax, even with a all-night party, will get knocked out almost immediately. I do get another Snorlax, so that's pretty awesome. Okay, so it's a Mega Manectric and Swampert deck. That's pretty cool. My opponent is just going to Skyla probably for a Manectric Spirit Link this turn. That way he can get a Mega Manectric next turn. And what I might just do is sack these, or I guess go for an Ultra Ball to get a Shaman to draw some more cards. At least my opponent had to waste his supporter for the turn on that. And I don't know, I just really wish that I could have gone first because, I mean, this deck really needs it. And, oh, my opponent even gets 2 energy in the discard pile. I mean, that's great for him, bad for us. Just because, I mean, that means that he will be able to effectively use Turbo Bolt to its maximum potential And this is starting kind of poorly for us. I just kind of have to hope my opponent doesn't have much going, and even after the N, that he won't have anything going either. What I am going to do is play down a Snorlax, play down a Darkrai, put the DCE onto the Snorlax, go ahead and max Elixir. I get nothing. Yay. I'm going to go ahead and just end. I'm going to save the Ultra Ball for later. It does give my opponent more cards, but I mean, that's kind of what we have to go with at this point. What I can also do is Ultra Ball, get rid of the Lysander and probably the Bridget to grab a Drowsy to put that down so we can start doing stuff next turn. Play that down there. Go ahead and play the Shaman. I want to save the All Night Party for when my opponent inevitably plays a Rough Seas. And, okay, I get another max Elixir. Can I get something? Yes, I do. Okay, so I have a Snorlax powered up. I have an N for next turn, and I think, you know what, I'm okay. I'm somewhat okay with this first turn. As long as my Drowsy just doesn't get destroyed, then I'm okay, which I can totally see happening if my opponent has a combination Lysander and Mega Manectric. But, okay, do see the Water Energy and the Muscle Band onto him. Manectric on the bench. Oh, because he has a Manectric Spirit Link right there. And a Mega Manectric. Oh, goody. So that's going to be fun. I'm going to have to hope for some... what am I going to hope for? I'm going to hope for some sleep shenanigans. That's what I have to hope for at this point. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to N again if my opponent doesn't have a supporter because, I mean, that's all I've currently got at this point. That's all I can go for. Actually, okay, never mind. My opponent did have a VS Seeker, goes for a Skyla. If he grabs a supporter or something like that, yep, he grabs a Sycamore. So I don't feel as bad about going for an N next turn because my opponent would be able to get some stuff powered up anyway. What I am going to go ahead and do is power up probably the Darkrai just because it can one-shot the Swamperts. Let's go ahead and put that onto the Darkrai. Go ahead and Ultra Ball, get rid of... Go ahead and Ultra Ball, get rid of probably the... you know what, let's get rid of the DCE and the VS Seeker to grab a Hypno. Where is it? Oh, there's only one. One Hypno is prized. That is very unfortunate. Let's go ahead and play the Hypno down there. And then I think, do I want to go for the All Night Party just yet? I think I'm going to hold, or the Goodnight Babies just yet. I think I'm going to hold off in case I can get a Floatstone or a Switch card. Let's go ahead and go for an N. Hopefully get, oh, I mean, I get a Floatstone and a Switch, so that's pretty sweet. What I can do is go ahead and switch into my Snorlax right here. Go ahead and Trainer's Mail, see if I can get a Fighting Fury Belt, which I do. That is phenomenal. And then let's play that there. Could I Super Rod? No, I can't Super Rod, so I'm just going to go ahead and Goodnight Babies right here. Put both of the Pokemon to sleep, and then go for a toss and turn, and hope my opponent doesn't wake up. Oh, he stays asleep. That is great, and so do we. That is just fine. I am in a great position now because, I mean, even though my opponent does have a Mudkip on the bench, that is completely fine. I mean, even if he gets a Swampert up, he has to have a Switch card in order to be able to switch out this turn. And I'm kind of hoping that he doesn't. Because, I mean, that's what we just have to hope for at this point. He does get another Mudkip on the bench. That is completely okay. And, okay, just spends the turn evolving into Mega Manectric. And we do stay asleep. You know what? That is completely fine with me. I'm going to go ahead and put a Floatstone onto this Hypno. Gonna go ahead and, you know what? I will spend the turn Shamaning. Yes, I'm gonna go ahead and Shaman, get some more cards. I get a Fighting Fury Belt. Gonna go ahead and slap that onto the, I think the Darkrai. Or do I want to put it onto the Snorlax? Nah, it's Darkrai because Darkrai is already getting powered up. And then let's just go ahead and Sycamore, get some more cards in our hand, and okay, we get something we can actually kind of work with. What I am going to go ahead and do is go for a toss and turn, knock out this Mega Manectric with my Snorlax, and even if I wake up, I still have Hypno, and you know what? We're actually in a decent position at this point. I stay asleep. It's not a huge deal because I will be able to still, I mean, I'll be able to survive the turn almost regardless. And, okay, so my opponent just Lysanders, goes for the Shaman to take 2 prizes. That is just fine. I think he will be able to power up a Mudkip or something like that, but actually what I can do is Lysander in the Shaman on the bench and knock it out with Snorlax next turn, which I think... Is that the play to make? I think that's the play. So what I am going to go ahead and do is put this onto the Snorlax. Yeah, go ahead. Play the Drowsy there. Put the DCE on the other Snorlax. That way I have it available if I need it. Going to go ahead and Trainer's Mail, see what else I can grab. What do I want to grab? Do I want to grab Max Elixir? No, I want to grab another... Actually, you know what? I'll go ahead and grab the Max Elixir just because. And I know what, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and Lysander in the Shaman to knock it out this turn. Yep, that is what I'm going to do. Going to go ahead and good night babies, and then toss and turn with Snorlax for the knockout on Shaman. See if I can get an energy, which I do. Going to go ahead and slap that onto the Snorlax on the bench. And you know what? We're actually in a pretty solid position. Let's go ahead and toss and turn, knock out the Shaman with a Snorlax that is asleep, and then take 2 prizes. All I have to do is just knock out 2 Mudkips at this point, and I mean, I win. I stay asleep. I mean, again, in this deck, that doesn't matter at all because the attack we're using with Snorlax is dependent on being asleep. And looks like my opponent's getting another Mudkip up. So here's the thing. Do I want to start Lysandering in Mudkips and knock them out? I think that might be the play. Well, I know... Okay, so 1 Lysander's in the discard pile, so is a VS Seeker. We stay asleep. That is just fine. I need to try to get another VS Seeker. I get an Escape Rope, actually. That works perfectly, actually. Because what I can do is go ahead and play the... No, I don't want to play the Goodnight Babies just yet. Or the Whole Night Party. I'm just going to Escape Rope, go into, I think, go into my other Snorlax, and then knock out one of the Mudkips. That way I have a Lysander next turn. And you know what? Yeah, that'll be my play. Let's go ahead and Goodnight Babies to be able to knock out this Mudkip. Gonna go ahead and play an energy on the Drowsy just because, or the Shaman. You know what? I'm gonna play it on the Shaman. Yeah, why not? And then go for a toss and turn, knock out this Mudkip, and I mean, we'll be able to knock out another Mudkip next turn because we do have a Lysander. And we stay asleep. That's not a big deal. As long as my opponent doesn't get like 2... Actually, even if my opponent gets 2 Swampert next turn, I'll be able to knock one of them out because I do have an all-night party. And okay, we are actually... I think we might actually be able to pull this off. Because, I mean, my opponent will be able to get another Mudkip... Well, I mean, another Manectric going. But that's just fine right now. He does get a Mudkip, and... I mean, like I said, even if he gets a Swampert, Darkrai is able to one-shot those guys. And we are actually, I think, going to win this with Snorlax. I mean, my opponent will be able to Turbo Bolt, knock out our Snorlax. That's okay. I mean, Snorlax did its job. My opponent will have a Marshtomp, up and going. But, I mean, he's powering... Okay, so he's powering up the Manectric in the back. That is completely fine with me. I'm just going to go ahead and, you know what, let's finish this off with Snorlax. I'm going to go ahead and put the Snorlax down here, slap a Fighting Fury Belt onto it just because I can, and then I just want to make sure my math is all straight. Yep, I do have a Lysander that'll be able to pull in the Marshtomp and knock it out, so let's just go ahead and I think... I'll just go ahead and Goodnight Babies now. I mean, like, what's the point? You know what? Screw it. Let's go ahead and Goodnight Babies right now to put both of them to sleep. And then what I can do is just play the all-night party for fun. Go for the VS Seeker, grab a Lysander, pull in the Marshtomp, and knock it out with a toss and turn. And we just beat a Mega Manectric deck with a Snorlax. That is really, really awesome. And I mean, Snorlax is strong. I mean, it's actually relatively strong if you're able to set it up. In this deck, I was actually able to set up very, very quickly. I do apologize. This video will be a little bit shorter because I'm currently in the process of moving all of my stuff. So I just wanted to go ahead, bring you kind of a rogue deck that isn't really thought of, but I saw Snorlax and I saw some potential with it. So I decided that, you know what, screw it, let's try to do a live with it, and I was actually able to beat a Mega Manectric deck with Snorlax. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all of that stuff. And this is Styx, signing out. Why not? See you guys.